Hello, everyone. Oh gosh, there we go. Give everyone a few minutes to join.
Let my cat come in now so she gets her cat
Oh,
time before we're doing for real business stuff.
so cute. I know my dog is sitting right here too, but I've always wanted that kind of cat. So I'm insanely jealous. I hear they're very high maintenance though.
You know, they actually aren't. Maybe I'm just a bad hairless cat owner. I don't know.
I doubt that.
Um I have three of them. I find them to be, I
Whoa,
mean, yeah, yeah, I have a lot of hairless cats.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. The only thing I will say is they're very dog-like and they are pretty like they need human contact. I think it's because they don't have like fur, so they can't keep themselves warm. So they like
Mhm.
need humans more than other cats do.
Honestly, yeah, that's better in my opinion. Like I want a cat that wants to be held. That's
100%
so
agree.
cute. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I don't like
Same. I love them.
nonchalance. I need
I,
chalance.
I,
Let's bring it on.
I'm the guy that
Yeah.
sits over here and is not an animal lover, and so I'm the cast out here in this conversation.
It's all right, Craig. We still love you for now. We'll see what happens.
My cats would make you an animal lover, I'm sure. They're very sweet. Very sweet. We do have a good quorum
Okay,
of people in here.
yeah, let's start it up. So, hello
Hi,
everyone. Welcome
everyone.
to the Surviving BFCM webinar. My name is Craig. I'm the VP of Solutions at Kodif, and I'm really happy that you're all joining us to talk about how to prepare your support organization for the busy season that's coming up and I did the math today, 105 days till Black Friday from today. So, our goal is to share with you a lot of practical tips on how to recognize your readiness and then how to combine AI and human agents to make this BFCM really low stress and hopefully provide your customers the service they expect. So I would really love to introduce our first panelist today, Mercer, from our co-sponsor of this webinar, Boldr. Mercer, I'd let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Mercer. I am the Senior Director of CX Strategy and Solutions at Boldr. I've been here for now 60 days, pretty much exactly. And I'm really excited to chat about how to use humans and AI in like a beautiful mishmash to achieve success on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and peak seasons in general. And I'm coming
Very
from
good.
Austin, Texas. And I'd love to see in the chat where other people are coming from too, if you feel like
Yeah.
sharing.
I actually am in Toronto. I generally live outside of Toronto, but I decided that since I'm sitting in a very bland hotel, I'll represent where I'm actually sitting. So that's my background today. Jessica Rose is from OneSkin, and she's joining us here as a huge industry expert in e-commerce savant. So, Jessica Rose, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Craig, I'm going to start letting you introduce me in every aspect of my life. That was amazing. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, I work for OneSkin's biotech longevity skincare brand. It's amazing. If you haven't checked it out, take a look. We're doing really amazing things. And I'm super, super stoked to talk BFCM. I call it my Super Bowl. People who like don't work in ecom, like my boyfriend, for example, or my best friend, kind of laugh at me because they're like, it's dramatic. And then naturally they see what I go through every single year and they're like, JK, this is probably worse than the Super Bowl. So excited to not only talk through my tips and tricks, but also to hear from Mercer and Craig and also all of you in the comments too of what you guys do to kind of tackle everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jessica Rose and Mercer, for being here. Yeah, if there is a questions section, please feel free to type in your questions and we'll leave some time for them or answer them in real time. But let's dive right in. I think, you know, I like to, I'm thinking of this webinar as a roadmap, right? And the first step in the roadmap of getting ready for BFCM is to understand if you are already ready or if you have some gaps. So let's start with Mercer and throw that over to you on from a systems perspective, you know, and a staffing perspective, I should say, systems and staffing perspective. What are the red flags that you're looking out for to start the peak season preparedness?
Yeah, so there's two things that I typically look out for. The first one is how frequently people are reviewing their macros and automations in their help desk, right? Like, I feel like many companies, especially if they're not like at a pretty advanced CX maturity, feel like they can just kind of set and forget macros and saved replies and all of that stuff. And if you're not reviewing that pretty frequently, like I'd even say like maybe once every 2 months rather than quarterly, you're going to run into some trouble with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, especially because there are usually like new promotions. There are usually lots and lots of questions. You're moving fast. You're really relying on a lot of that automation and macro usage. And if anything is incorrect, it causes more harm than good. And you need to go back and kind of change things at higher volume, which can be tricky. And then the other thing that I look at is how a business has been considering workforce management moving up to this point. Something that I see a lot of businesses do is when capacity planning, they plan at like 90% capacity or like 95% capacity. And it's not realistic. First off, like even in normal times, you should probably do like 80% capacity just so that people have time out of the queue. If someone is sick or, something is unplanned, something bad happens, like, you have kind of some bandwidth. But if you're not already thinking about that and you're going into staff planning for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you are 100% gonna be understaffed. Like so much so, it's gonna be really, really wacky and wild. So that's kind of what I look for and think about when I'm just talking to folks. Yeah, I'd love to hear from others.
Yeah, Jessica Rose, I'd love to hear your perspective from, being in the weeds. What is the one thing, when you hit, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas period, those types of things that you realize, oh crap, I should have checked this 105 days ago.
Lord, I hope that doesn't happen to me, but I agree with Mercer completely. Like, it's one of those things when we talk about preparedness, right? It's really making sure that your knowledge base, like the tools that your agents use every day, right? Like customer happiness equals agent happiness, right? So we don't want them to like be dreading Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We want them to feel like they're going to be okay. They're prepared. There's not going to be misinformation. So I agree, like really reviewing even like customer facing FAQs. We use a tool called order editing, making sure that like just checking all of those tools and systems is really, really solid. With 105 days out, like at this juncture, I'm already done. Like I've already done that work. But I think for those of us who haven't, don't panic, right? Like if you haven't done it, it's okay. But like do it 30 days before for sure. Like give yourself that 30-day buffer if you can to really make sure. Because at that 30-day mark, that's my uh-oh moment. And I have had experiences, like for instance, at companies where we've changed the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal like a month before. And that really like shifts kind of my whole plan. But at least I have that buffer because I've done all that hard work that Mercer really outlined so beautifully. It's easier to kind of just accomplish everything else, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm very glad to hear you're done. I think I hope that other people that are on this webinar can say the same. For those that are not, I love that you're done. And maybe this question is perfect to direct to you. One of the hardest things, especially in a company like OneSkin that is known for its very high touch customer experience and support organization, what do you find is the hardest part of maintaining that when you see these seasonal spikes?
That's a really great question. So at OneSkin, we're very, very science backed. We run a lot of clinical data and a lot of clinical trials. And so customers come through with like very, very high touch questions across our entire product line. So to your point, we have to be really individual and high touch. Of course, there are some things that we can like use macros as a guideline, but some things are just going to be individual to people's skin. An example of this is like people come all the time who have alopecia and they want to use our hair product, right? You can't just throw a macro. There's a million different kind of root causes for alopecia. And we're not the kind of company that's going to be like, call your derm. Like at a certain point we might, but we really want to try to get them to that point based off of like our science and based off of what we know. So for us, when it comes to like peak and Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? Where you're getting 3 to 6 times, last year we had 6 times the volume than normal during peak and Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is madness, of course. It's very easy for the agents to start to do what I call dumping, which is just like get through tickets, get through tickets, get through tickets. Like as long as it's kind of right, it's right. That's not the way we roll. We don't believe in that. So we really take the approach, and this is challenging. Again, there's a lot that goes into it, capacity planning, like Mercer said, which I totally agree with, but it's not a quantity, it's a quality. So the way that we work with the team is all about rewarding quality versus quantity. We also do this throughout the entire year, which is helpful. So they understand kind of the approach and what it is. And of course, lots of QA and lots of coaching, but they really are of the understanding of like, we have to keep that high touch point. If it takes you 10 minutes to answer a ticket, it takes you 10 minutes to answer a ticket. We're not going to sacrifice it just because there's a lot of tickets in the queue.
I really like that answer. I specifically want to come back to the capacity planning and piece in a second with Mercer, because I know that's an area of her expertise. But one thing, in a former life, I was at Shopify. I ran the tier 3 support organization at Shopify, and the one thing that from the back end perspective, and I think that is also true with the customers that that use Shopify for their business, is the repeatability of it. And what we had dealt with at Shopify was that every year it seemed like it was a brand new process and coming into place. We were getting the teams that on call. We were, inventing new statuses and tags for tickets that needed to be escalated, or how to monitor the systems differently to make sure they were up and running. And I think that was a disservice overall, because now you're trying to teach, and in Shopify's case, we're talking a support team of 600 plus people. You're trying to teach them all new processes, and it's just, hey, for the next weekend, do this different thing. And it gets confusing. And I love your comment about consistency, because I think that if you have, a plan in place, and that plan accommodates for scale and scales properly, even if you are short-staffed, or even if you are trying to provide a high level of service, and your queue backs up, you already have the plans in place to meet that. And you're not saying, well, just for the next few days, do something different and cause all those manual errors that potentially comes up with. So, fantastic response. Mercer.
I kind of, sorry. I just wanted to touch on something that you said as well, Jessica Rose, which is like, customer, like happy customers means happy team members, right? Like I think you said agents, but we don't use that word at Boldr. So I wanted to say team members. And that's also something that I think is important to prepare for with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because it is like a Super Bowl, right? Like it is such an arduous thing. And something that I've been thinking a lot about is like how we set up our team members for success during hard times, right? And I think that there's also, this is like a bit of a tangent, and I know that Craig, you've got stuff that you want to cover, but I do think it's important enough to mention, like making sure that your team is like emotionally and physically and whatever else supported going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and like giving them some time off ahead of time. I know a lot of support teams do like blackout periods where you can't take time off. I worked at Apple in retail. I worked like literally every Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. Like making sure that your support team is taken care of, or your customer success team, or whatever customer facing team you're in charge of, so that they can do the best by your customers. Because if they go into it burnt out, and they go into it like already feeling like, dang, this is gonna suck, like it's not going to be good for anybody, and you're going to end up having even more burnout and dealing with all of that and what that brings with it on the back end, right? So it won't even just be like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, get through this like week and a half of really tough times. It'll be like that, and then also the backlog, and then also the fallout on all of the things that like have come down to your team. So I just wanted to put that in there before we move forward.
No, I love that. And sorry, Craig, because I just love talking to you, Mercer. You're just the best. I 100,000% agree. And it is like making sure they're prepped before. And then something we do during is everyone gets lunch. As long as it's peak Black Friday, Cyber Monday, everyone gets fed lunch every single day. And then also if they have to work late, like if there's OT, which we really try to avoid, they always get dinner. And then we also have theme days. So every single day of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's like a different day that we all dress up. It's like very easy, but it's fun. Back when I was in office, we would do like, this might sound a little crazy, but like water gun fights. And like we had like foam swords. Like we would take like what we called like fun breaks. And virtually, we have this like Zoom meeting for 15 minutes a day where everyone kind of joins and we play little games to kind of like break up the monotony. Because it feels like this mountain to climb. And it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be this big, scary giant that is just like, oh, let's dredge through it. Like, we can make it fun and it can be enjoyable because of the natural human inclination to have camaraderie. So we really try to lean on that too. So I love everything you said for sure.
I love the idea
Yay.
of fun breaks as opposed to the kind of breaks that I generally take, which are, cell phone in one hand and sandwich in the other, right? So
I think you mean no breaks,
Yeah.
Craig. I think you meant to say no breaks.
yeah, that's it. I want to go back to capacity planning because honestly, I think that, as part of the mental health side, it's treating your team, well, but it's also making sure that the company is prepared for this. And I think that's capacity planning. So Mercer, I'd love to hear how you look at it from we'll start with from the agent, from the human perspective. I'll skip the word agent. And then we'll see how it adapts when we start talking about the AI side of it and introducing the technology side. But let's start with capacity planning for humans for this type
Yeah.
of scale up.
Yeah, I mean, I think like obviously looking at historical data is going to be the best way to do this, right? Like if you've been in business at least a year, you can look at what kind of I mean, I guess you'd have to have been in business for like 18 months or something like that. But like you can look at your historical data and see how much ramp up occurred during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or if you're not like a D2C or e-com person, just a peak season, right? Like if you're an ed tech company, maybe it's school season or whatever. Go back and look at that historical data, see how much growth your volume has had. Like Jessica Rose said 6x, which is boggling and I like the stuff of my nightmares, to be honest. And then start to model that out. So you can look at this cat. You can start to look at your volume and say, okay, so we know that it's going to 6x, or we know that it's going to 4x, or last year at like 2x. So maybe we should probably forecast for 4x. And then kind of do some backwards math, right? Like I actually think ChatGPT can be really helpful for this for people that are not math minded, right? You can take a model, you can take an Erlang model or anything like that. I actually just recently made a little workforce management staffing planner. So I will share that link here. But yeah, you can put it into ChatGPT, you can put it into an Excel sheet, and kind of start to model out what the volume looks like based on historical data and where you're currently at. And then, of course, if you are in the process of implementing AI now, which is, I think, probably the only time that you should start thinking about adding AI into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, don't do it in October. Don't do it in November because it will not have the time to be like trained up or anything like that. Like you can also use some of that forecasting in your model as well. Sorry, I don't know if that was really rambling or helpful or what, but I'd love to hear from Jessica Rose and Craig if that's what you were looking for, Craig, or if I can help clarify anywhere.
No, I love it. And you and I know in a previous life worked a lot on or with Erlang models, and I've created my own one. Sounds like you've created your own one. We should just start a business, generating random formats of workforce management calculations. Jessica Rose, I was going to ask you to add on to that in the sense of how you keep the team, once it is capacity planned, once you have hired it, motivated. You already answered a lot of that. What is the key, besides motivation, about keeping people on track on what needs to be accomplished? Like obviously there is still a goal. You can have all the fun you want, but there's still goals that have to be met. And so what's the key to focus your team and make sure they're providing the service you expect?
It's a lot of what you said, Craig. Consistency. So throughout the year, right? Like we are kind of managing the same way that we're managing on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So that calm like really exists because first of all, like we know each other. We know what to expect and we know who we can lean on and where to lean on. Like there aren't a lot of question marks, right? And that doesn't change during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So we keep it consistent. And honestly, like we have really high touch with our CX team all year long. So nothing has, it's not like this new process, right? Where we're like meeting and doing all these things and trying to tackle stuff. It's really, really the same of how we operate all year round. And I think that's what's important. Like I've seen scenarios where, team leaders have kind of like only really like dove deep with their teams like right before peak. And I just don't think that works. I think you have to like really exist with them as humans throughout the year. So I think that really helps. Also, like radical candor, right? Like my team and I have built radical candor over a long period of time. And so if something's effed up, pardon my French, like they know they can come to me and they're not afraid. They can be like, this is what's happening, or you told me this, and like, this isn't true, or it's not right. They're not afraid of me. So all of that, like during a high stress period, like they can Slack me or message me whenever they want. It doesn't matter if I've answered the question 50 times. If they have the question, it means I didn't answer it correctly, right? So they know that that's my approach. They're not scared. And so they're very comfortable kind of coming to and working together during all periods, but specifically during a high intensity time like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And then also, of course, like all those fun things, and they get to eat, which is nice because everyone deserves to eat.
Excellent. And so let's combine these two questions to, oh, sorry, Mercer, you have something to add.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if you think about Black Friday, Cyber Monday as like the end of a long race, like something that you said, Jessica Rose, kind of resonated with me is like, okay, if you're starting new habits and you are making changes in your life, you need to do it like over and over and over regularly for it to actually become a habit. If all of a sudden you're just like, I'm just going to change everything about the way I do this thing, it never sticks. It feels very uncomfortable and it oftentimes goes awry. So anything that you are trying to have enacted or implemented during Black Friday, Cyber Monday needs to have already been ingrained in your team and been part of the practice from the very beginning, because otherwise it won't stick. They'll go back to like old habits or back to like standard operating procedures from before you made this like drastic change, and it'll be painful for everyone. So I love that you brought that up, Jessica Rose, and I just wanted to double click on it.
You're amazing.
Mercer.
No, you
what I was
are.
gonna say is, I mean, Mercer is amazing. For anyone who doesn't know Mercer, go follow her on LinkedIn. Her content is always spicy, and her cats every now and then make an appearance. So, Mercer, what I was going to ask was the combination of the two questions. So we've capacity planned. You have been at BPOs and worked with BPOs for many years. I'd love to understand how all of this can be a strategy for our listeners. So now we've identified the problems. We need capacity. We need to make sure those people are motivated, having fun. And how do we use a BPO to achieve those goals?
That's a great question. I don't think that you necessarily need to use a BPO. I do think that BPOs make it easier. So thank you for teeing up me like effectively giving a sales pitch, Craig, because I don't think I would have otherwise. I'm just not like a self promoter. I think that, BPOs can make it really easy because they have a lot of experience in terms of like staffing for this type of thing, right? Like many BPOs will have models that are specifically ramped for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or peak season. They'll have specific contracts and specific types of management and onboarding that make it easy. If you've not done that yourself, or you already have like a bunch of other stuff that you're trying to consider, like making sure that your team members are fed and making sure that they've taken their time off and making sure that they're emotionally supported, partnering with a BPO can be really helpful as like an additional support. I kind of think of them as like the antidepressants for like customer support teams, right? I think like sometimes you can't make your own serotonin, so you need to buy some store-bought serotonin, and I feel like that's what BPOs do. BPOs do for CX teams.
Just go with the next marketing campaign.
I know. BPOs, serotonin.
Buy some
CX.
serotonin. That's awesome.
But I also think like if you're not ready to make the dive into BPOs, you could also do EOR, which is employer of record, right? Like if you just need help staffing up and ensuring that you have enough people, EOR businesses can do that. Boldr does that, but there's also like Oyster and Remote and stuff like that. So basically what that is they staff and hire for you, and then you manage the employee in your own internal way. So that's another helpful way to do it. And of course, if you are not ready and able to do either of those things, or you don't feel comfortable doing so or whatever, please talk to me because I'm happy to talk to you about why you should. But also you can utilize AI as a really great way to kind of make up some of the difference, I suppose.
Well, that's a great segue into where I wanted to go. So now we've identified our problems. We have done some of our capacity planning. We've motivated our team, and there's still some shortages. And the shortage in this case might be solvable by AI. So why don't we start with Jessica Rose and how you see AI as an integral part of this strategy for scale?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I'm going to be honest, I'm very wary of AI in general. I think a lot of companies and tech and tools call things AI that are just not AI. But we are signed with Kodif. We love Kodif. So I will also give a little precursor to this. We named our chatbot after our favorite sales girl, Kelsey, who got us on Kodif. So our chatbot is named Kelsey. And our team refers to her. Like, we'll talk and they're like, oh, well, like Kelsey said this. Like, I didn't realize that. I've been saying this. Is Kelsey right? And I'm like, yeah, Kelsey's right. And they're like, okay, cool. Like, taking notes. So there is no feeling of like, oh no, AI is taking over my job. That was obviously very intentional. We wanted to make sure that our team knew like this is just to free you up to do meaningful, deep work, less Wismo tickets, less order cancellations, and things that are really meaningful to our customers. So they really view her as this like kind of angel who's like able to not only free up the queue and their workload, so they love her, but also who's able to kind of, you know, allow them to do that deep rooted work. So they view AI that way. And then they also know when it comes to something like peak, and this will be our first peak Black Friday, Cyber Monday that we have, Kelsey. So we're excited to see how she does. We know she's going to do so well. They're like, thank God. And like literally we have a huddle call every Tuesday. And last Tuesday, the whole team was like, oh, thank God you did this now. Like, we're so excited, right? So the sentiment is very high. And they kind of lean on each other. Like I said, like the agents look to Kelsey, and Kelsey's also in the background, you know, mining agent responses and making suggestions and saying, this is probably something we want to start talking about overall. And so it really is this like beautiful like lockstep that they're walking in, and they really rely on each other. Yeah, they love her. I wish I could like show you examples because I know I'm saying out loud, but like she is a part of our team. Like she is very much, and I feel so weird gendering AI, but it's just because like she's named after Kelsey, so she is she like forever. But yeah, like they love her, and you know, we like to believe that Kelsey loves us too.
I love that answer, Jessica Rose, and thanks for the shout out. I will let Kelsey know that you know, she's getting a lot of praise here on the call from Taylor as well in the comments. You know, a couple things that you noted that I really picked up on. One is the nervousness around AI, and I think that's absolutely warranted, right? I am a huge advocate for AI. I have played with it. I have worked in it. I have studied it. And I'm not a fear monger. I don't think AI is going to steal all our jobs. But I also think that the pragmatic approach is that AI is not going anywhere now. The cat is out of the bag and the technology isn't existing. And so therefore, to me, you have to add this to your tool belt. And part of adding something to your tool belt is understanding what it is and what it isn't, to your point, Jessica Rose, right? It's a matter of really fully understanding. You know, I saw a post literally yesterday or the day before on LinkedIn where someone who was absolutely against AI asked GPT to generate a map of Europe. And while the map wasn't horrible, it didn't label some countries correctly. Like, for example, France was closer to England, and it wasn't perfect. And he was like, hey, checkmate AI lovers, you know, such a, you know, third grade, you know, project, and you know, AI couldn't do it. And I was like, you know, isn't that kind of like judging a fish based on its ability to climb a tree, to kind of reference the famous quote, right? Because that's not what an LLM does. It's in the name, large language. It's not a model that's meant to generate pictures in that traditional sense, right? And so that's a key thing, is what can AI do and what can it not do? And I think that that's something that companies like Kodif need to take into account when we're selling it, I think we need to take it into account when we're integrating into, whether it's with you, Jessica Rose, and with OneSkin, or that's working with a BPO and saying, hey, this is how we're going to partner with an outsourcing organization and what the AI will do for you and what it won't do, or what are the impacts of that, both positive and negative, because there quite frankly is some negative impact there. Mercer, do you want to?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think like the important thing to remember is that both BPOs and AI are like scary to people, right? Because it's about control. Everyone wants to have control over their CX. Everyone wants to, like Steve Jobs it end to end and know like everything that is happening. And that's so admirable and amazing, but it just isn't like feasible at a larger scale. The more you grow, the less feasible that becomes. And so I think like being explicit about expectations and needs in all things in life, but especially in business relationships, is incredibly important. So like with AI tooling, that's like having that conversation with the vendor up front. Like, these are the things that are non-negotiable. These are the things that are really important to me. And making sure also that you set those like railroad tracks and parameters in the beginning of implementation, so that anything that you want to have protected remains protected, and anything that you feel comfortable experimenting with can be experimented with. And then the same goes with BPOs, right? Like, we work with some really huge clients, and they're very particular about what their CX looks like and what their brand looks like and what the tone is. And knowing that from the start sets us up for success. So coming into any relationship, whether it be with an AI technology company or with a BPO or EOR business, making sure that you're upfront and clear about your expectations, even if it feels like a little bit icky and like squishy for you because you're a like heart forward CX person, is really important, I'd say.
I completely agree, Mercer. I wanted to add one more piece, and then I want to come back to Jessica Rose on the practicality of it, of what's going on within OneSkin. But the second piece I wanted to talk about was, the rollout of AI, right? And I think that any AI solution, and I just kind of briefly touched on the idea that there's positive and negative impacts. There is a fear, right? There is a fear that people's jobs will change or be reduced, and because that's the headlines, right? We without calling out any companies by name, and I know Mercer knows these companies well, where they make big headlines because they fired 75% of their staff and replaced it with AI. Whether or not that worked, the headlines also tell that story too. But I think that's what they read. But I think in practicality, that's not what actually happens, because the AI, and this is something I've said many times, and I think people don't understand. AI is not magic. AI will not understand your processes. It doesn't understand your technology. It doesn't understand it doesn't understand your knowledge. It doesn't understand what a refund is. It doesn't understand what a privacy policy is. It just understands words, and you have to teach it and tell it how to use those words effectively with your clients. And I think that, at least for now, will be something a human has to do, and a human will need to be involved to continue that training. Every company evolves new products, new policies, new processes, new features, whatever they might be, and the human has to be around to help teach the automation. So with that comment, Jessica Rose, I'd love to hear, what have you said your team loves Kelsey. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your specific implementation and how you reached a point where your team loved it. Like, how did you bridge that gap from the scariness of bringing in AI to all of a sudden we love you because you're doing something for us? What is that something?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the proof is like kind of in the methodology. So when we went about building Kelsey via Kodif, really my approach was like one bite at a time. We did one policy at a time. We didn't onboard a bunch of things. We did have her, ingest our website, our FAQ, Shopify catalog, all of that stuff just at a base level. But we didn't like create a bunch of policies at once and just turn them on. We turn one on at a time. We write one, we turn one on, and then we monitor it. And specifically, we involve our agents in this process as well, right? So they're a part of ensuring that like the conversations are being reviewed so that they feel a part of the process. And also because we're all different people naturally. Like just because I manage the department doesn't make me better than anybody else, right? Like they look at things through a different lens and they know our customers the best, right? So they're on that front line. And I can talk to customers all day, but they're always going to do more volume than I am on a daily basis. So they're a part of like really giving feedback and saying, yes, no, this feels right, this doesn't feel right, tone, etc. So number one, they're a part of that process, but also they don't feel overwhelmed with what's coming in because we're only handling one policy at a time and they know what that policy is. I'm reviewing the policy, we're making tweaks, and only when we feel like it is. And to your point, AI is not perfect. I don't think it should be perfect, right? Like our agents aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. It's going to take time and you're going to have to build it. Just like I coach my agents and we do QA, like I'm doing the same thing with Kelsey, right? So really having them be a part of that process and using that methodology of like one bite at a time has really served us very well so far.
I want to comment on the not perfect thing, because that's another thing that goes back to the magic comment, right? Is you know, humans aren't perfect either. And if they say the wrong phrase or they go off of brand tone in a particular instance, they require coaching. And I think that there is this tendency to get over angry because a computer doesn't do it right. It isn't perfect. But we don't give humans the same anger. Well, we're more understanding when a human makes a mistake. And I think that that's an interesting thing to call out, because how will the computer know not to do it? I mean, everything that's happening right now, even on this call, is a bunch of ones and zeros, and someone had to tell it how to combine those ones and zeros into three faces, one of which is being blended into a background right now. So I love that point, and I think that that's something that's really important to understand, is perfection comes from iteration. One of the things, without making this a sales pitch, I think one of the things that Kodif does very well is the test framework that we provide to our customers to do and test that accuracy and consistency regularly without the manual effort. And that is a really key feature that a lot of our customers utilize to be able to kind of prove to themselves that, hey, this thing is acting human-like, in the sense that it's generative responses, but still getting across the very important points and very consistent answers that our customers expect. So excellent.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Just to like very quickly tack on, like if you know me well, with any vendors, my love is earned, not to sound harsh. So I'm not just saying this about Kodif. They've earned, every bit of praise. But Kelsey is like, talk about perfection. We also want to like celebrate the things that she does well, like we would do with any agent. And we had this amazing experience recently where a customer was from Hawaii and was like kind of, using phrases that were like not even common to me. And Kelsey like was very, very great at injecting like little flower emojis and like saying aloha when it made sense. And it was just very impressive. And she picked up on it like very, very quickly. And our agents were like, this is so cute. And it was like this moment of celebration where we all were like giggly about like how cute Kelsey was. And that's a point within support that sparks joy too. So it's worth celebrating.
Mercer, I'd like to throw back to you now when it comes to the kind of the last question specific to AI is, what do you see when you work across many brands, and what's the common conception or misconception maybe around AI and how they want to use it, how they do use it? What is the pattern that you see, and what do you think needs to be corrected so that it can be improved?
Well, I think that everyone, when they hear AI, just assumes that we mean like a chat interface, right? Like very few people think about like agent assist or even like solutioning on the back end in the help desk as like something that AI can do. And I think that obviously that's changing. Things are becoming much more mainstream, but I still feel like that is when people say like we want AI, they mean like a chatbot experience. Or something like that. And the reason that I think that's problematic is that, like, first off, I know, Craig, this particular soapbox of mine, but like not everyone needs chat. You might not need chat. You might not need it as a channel. So why implement it just so you can have AI? If your customers aren't asking for it, don't implement it. And maybe if they are, still don't implement it, because there's whatever, separate conversation. But like, failing to consider the other areas of opportunity where AI can provide benefit and provide efficiency for your team can be really problematic. Like we talked earlier about workforce management, right? Like AI can assist with workforce management. That's something that it can do. That can take that can free up bandwidth that some of the humans on your team otherwise wouldn't have because they would be doing capacity planning, right? And the same thing goes with like agent assist or something that's like layered on the back end of a help desk, right? Like that type of stuff takes out the context switching needs that your team members need to have and instead allows them to focus on being real and human and present in the conversation. So like Craig, when you were talking about like empathy for the AI, which is basically what I took your message to be, is like we should practice kindness with the AI. We should make sure that we train it and aren't just mean to it when it messes up the first time. Sure. Yeah. Okay. But like I also think that there is the human piece in that, right? Like we must also be kind to the humans and understand that like there is a lot of nuance when you're implementing AI and it can be scary for support people, right? Like it can be scary to have this new thing and have their roles be changing and think like, oh, okay, my role used to be I come in, I answer tickets, I help people all day, and that was great. I loved that. To like, oh, I come in, I manage the AI bot, I handle escalations, I look at these different queues, I train, you know, like it's just a totally different nuanced thing. So I think that people are failing to consider that as well. That was really rambling. I definitely got up on my like multiple soapboxes. I just like hopped from one to the next. But yeah, I think like instead of just assuming that chat is where you need to go, maybe look at other areas of opportunity, look at workforce management, look at like areas where your knowledge base might need to be shored up, look at agent assist on the back end, look at like there's so many different like wacky AI usages nowadays that I think go beyond our traditional concept and can be really helpful for teams as well, especially as it comes to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and freeing up human time to do meaningful human work.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I wasn't saying that AI necessarily deserves empathy. What I was saying was the irrational way we would treat it, you know, when a computer, like, you know, I think about when my computer has a problem. It's like, oh, you know, I get super angry that the computer doesn't function or is really slow. Whereas when I ask my son to put his shoes on and it takes me 20 minutes to walk to the door, I wouldn't have that same anger with him. You know, it's we just have this irrational anger at computers and technology, I think.
I mean, I don't know. I would like this, what you were saying that brought this to mind for me was like, but people do that to support people all the time. Like all the time.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Webinar on that. We could have that.
Yeah.
That's its own webinar. Next on the Boldr Kodif co-sponsored webinars. Let's the last kind of 5 minutes before we see if there's any questions. I really want to now go to, okay, so we've recognized the red flags. We've talked about how humans and AI can combine to help you there. Now let's talk about reflection. And so BFCM is here. Maybe it's over. What do we need? What are the metrics and signals, Jessica Rose, that you can look at to see, were you successful or were you not successful? Do you need to change something in the future? What is the what do you look at? What's your dashboard look like?
Yeah, that is a really great question. There's a lot of meat here. So I'm going to try to like go over it in a more like general kind of summary way, but there's kind of like 3 key indicators. So obviously like those metrics, but we're also looking at like a look back. So we do a Black Friday, Cyber Monday peak, like meeting with everyone of like what went well, what didn't, what can we do better for the future? Because a lot of it, right? Like there's no other department like support where any change that happens in the company inevitably trickles down to support and then you feel the weight of it, right? So we have this like master list that we have of like what happened that like cannot happen in the future, right? Like one of the hardest rules at OneSkin is like you never launch anything on a Friday, right? And that crosses everything, whether it's tech, a new macro, you just don't do it on a Friday because you can't watch it. But outside of that, as long as we're not doing that, what are some things that we're just kind of full of friction? So that's a second indicator. And then the third is kind of, we have like a lunch and learn just with the support team where we just kind of talk through what their experience was. I'm not a big survey girl, so I don't love surveys. In the past, before I made that jump, I would survey the team. So we had like an internal kind of feeling of how it went. Now we just chat. Like real people and break bread together and, just have a conversation. So those are the 3 indicators. When it comes to metrics, right, we're just looking at kind of our key KPIs, right? Like first response time. Again, not a big fan of surveying, but we do look at CSAT there. Full resolution time. Like, did our capacity planning work? Did injecting AI into the ecosystem work? For Kodif specifically, Kelsey has her own KPIs for containment rate and also deflection rate. So was that number where we wanted to see? Was the quality of response where we wanted to see? So again, it's a little bit meaty, but I feel like that's a good summary of kind of like what we look at overall. It's going to be different for everybody.
Mercer, I'd love to just ask the same question of you, given that you're kind of pan brands, across many companies, many verticals. Is there a common thread that everyone should know about?
No, that's like really a tricky question. I was trying to think about how I would answer that in like yeah, a succinct way. And I think it depends on the customer. I dislike CSAT, so I don't like that, but I do think that effort score or something around that is, yeah, I was like, am I going to get an opportunity to talk about how much I hate CSAT today? I think customer effort score is really good, especially because AI is being implemented to make customer lives easier, right? Like that, I mean, that's what we tell ourselves, right? Is like, it's not about saving money, it's about making customers' lives easier. And so finding a way to measure that, whatever that is within your brand or company, I think is probably the most effective thing to track when it talks about when you're talking about implementation.
Yeah, I think that one thing that Jessica Rose commented on was the fact that Kelsey has her own metrics, right? And I'd love to get an opinion from each of you on, is AI measured the same way as a human, or are they measured in conjunction with? Are they measured completely separately? I'd love to get your opinion on that, because I think that's a contentious topic. Because obviously average handle time is fairly instantaneous, so that's not something that's apples to apples comparison, but accuracy might be something you could compare. So Jessica Rose, let's start with you. How do you differentiate? You said Kelsey has her own metrics. How do they differ or look the same than a human?
Yeah, so there's some overlap between her and the agents, right? Like you said, like we are QAing her and she has the same coaching model. So we hold her to the same coaching standard as we do the agents when it comes to like accuracy, tone, etc. But we're not balancing like CSAT really that hard, or FRT. We do look at the CSAT, but I'm really in the same camp as Mercer here. Like I just really don't love CSAT. I think it's like outdated might not even be the right word. Like we maybe should have never been doing this and we just got ourselves in a hole. Love the comment on customer effort score, excuse me, for sure. So we're not really looking at CSAT, but we'll glance at it. We're really just looking at like the quality and accuracy of her responses, her tone, how much she aligns with brand, and how successful she is. Whereas the agents, like all of that matters for sure, but then we're also looking at first response, full resolution, taking into account like quality versus quantity. Like we don't judge our agents by how many tickets they're grabbing, because then that just turns into like a give me so I can get that gold star at the end of the line, which we want to avoid.
I see the question about why don't you like CSAT, and it sounds like all 3 of us align on our hatred for CSAT. So why don't we all share our top reasons? Because I'm sure there might not be overlap, but for me, it's the CSAT historically captures your happiest and your angriest customers. You miss that massive people in the middle, which is the people you actually want to talk to, because the people that are the angriest, the people that are the happiest, are unlikely to maneuver, at least not without moving oceans. Whereas the people in the middle, you can convert one way or the other. I am, again, going back to AI, I think one of the biggest advantages of AI is the concept of inferred CSAT, which I will fully admit is not foolproof, but I think that it's a lot more accurate, and it covers the entirety of an interaction and the entirety of the emotions felt across your entire ticket base, which CSAT certainly doesn't. So that's my reasons, but I would love to hear other reasons from the panel.
It's me. Um, I dislike CSAT because I think it's a vanity metric, and I don't think that it actually measures anything about what your support team is supposed to be doing. There are like 1 million reasons why someone could give a bad CSAT. It could be because of your product. It could be because your support team member didn't give them the answer that they wanted. It could be because you don't offer a refund. And so using it to measure the performance of an individual or a team in the inbox feels cruel and unusual to me. I also don't think that it is actually an indicator of the work that the support team is doing. And I think that the reason we use it is because it is easier for everybody else to understand. So your CEO, your CFO, other people assume that they know what CSAT means. And so we continue to use it because in a world that is powered by CEOs and CFOs, we have to bow to them and give them the information that they need. I think that customer effort score or correlated metrics are the best way to measure your support team. Otherwise, if you are unable to do that and you do have to continue to measure CSAT, I recommend educating everyone else that is looking at CSAT and is not intimately familiar with what it's actually measuring, so that your CEO doesn't think, oh, our CSAT is 75 or whatever, our customers are unhappy. Instead, you say our CSAT is 75. Here are the largest contributors to detraction, and here are the largest contributors to customer happiness. I could go on forever about this. So if you want to talk to me more about it, please reach out on LinkedIn. I'm happy to just chat about it, honestly.
Yeah, Mercer, maybe we should like set up like a coffee date link where people can join us and we can like all chat about it. Because I feel like a lot of people feel this way, right? Like I agree with you. Like, first of all, no notes, agree with absolutely everything you said. Like there's nothing I even really need to add, just like +1 on that. But I think like you said, like just, for superlative here, it's really not an indicator at all. You get a response rate of what, 19%. Like, let's talk about it from that perspective. And to your point, it's like you have tantrum syndrome, which is like, I'm not happy, I didn't get what I want, which we're all humans and I understand that. I'm not shaming anyone for doing that. It's like you rate bad for a reason. You also have the instance where like literally all the time we'll have a customer like respond after a ticket's closed and they're like, oh shoot, I meant to say good, but I said bad. And it's like, okay, well, it's too late now, right? So when you have broken data, it's like that data doesn't matter at all anyway anymore. And it's just impossible that part of that won't be broken. And, sometimes we get rated bad because people are like, my pump broke. And it's like, that's really like about the product and brand experience, right? Not so much the agent experience or the customer team member experience. I like that. I'm stealing that from you. So yeah, I agree. I just think CSAT is boo. Use VOC.
And also, that's not, just to clarify, that's not to say that what you are doing wrong, that you are doing something wrong. Person that uses that as like number one metric. I'm not saying at all like you're bad and that was silly to do. I'm saying that this is a larger systemic problem, and I wish that we could address it.
Yeah, well said. That's it. +1 on that as well.
Thank you.
Will had a great question. Do you consider NPS and CSAT as the same thing? I mean, I have a very strong opinion there. But Mercer, do you want to start?
I think that NPS doesn't really have a place in the support ecosystem. I think it is more of a marketing metric. I think that it is helpful for marketers in that they need to understand how people are considering the brand. And they can use it for marketing content or figuring out ICP, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But I don't think that it is necessary in the support world. And I don't think that, yes, if you're using it in support, it's probably exactly the same thing.
I agree. I second that. And also like, raise your hand if as like a human being and a consumer, you have survey on. Like, have you ever clicked through a survey and you're just like, yeah. And like, you're not really NPS historically, those surveys are so flippin' long. It's like insane. Like it reminds me of having to do a G2 survey, which I think we've all done. And you're like 17 pages later, you're like, now I hate this brand forever. And I hope this company burns. Just kidding. But like, honestly, like it just starts to really generate this deep, deep rooted hate. So yeah, I think that you have the mix of yawn, like Mercer said. And then you also have like, just like a similar thing to CSAT where like, it's not just not a good indicator. I agree if brands want to run it. I think it honestly takes a bigger role. It should take a bigger role, excuse me, in like retail in like physical spaces versus D2C ecom. That's just me.
I always use the example of this, right? And it's a little bit of an exaggerated example, but the reason why I don't like MPS is that it's statistically meaningless. And what I mean by that is just the way it's calculated. So for example, if you have a survey and everyone hates your company and rates you a 1, and that's an MPS of 0, right? Everyone's a detractor, or actually it's negative 100. I forget. I actually have to go back to figure that out. But either way, it's a very bad score. And then you go and do a ton of work. You spend a year doing nothing but focusing on customer experience, and everyone comes back and rates you a 6 because, wow, look at that improvement. That's still the same number because 6 is still a detractor. So how can you measure? I don't hate it as like an overall metric that someone uses as a marketing thing or vanity metric. But if you're compensated on that, like if I have a variable comp plan based on NPS and that situation happened, I would be furious because like by all standards, 6x the average sentiment about promotion, but the metric would remain at the same horrible score because 6 is a detractor. So my main complaint, and that's just because I'm a math guy, is that I just don't think the number is statistically meaningful in the sense of actual customer sentiment. Thanks for the questions, Will. This is always a great conversation. Okay, we have 3 minutes left, and Ellen asked kind of more of a fun question around BFCM specifically, and that is, have you ever had a personal meltdown over another company's handling things really badly during peak season? And I'm going to throw this one to Jessica Rose to start because it looks like she has a great story to tell.
Oh God, so many. And I'm not going to call the brand out because I feel like it's not fair to do it in this kind of platform. But I had a really horrible experience, and it's a technology company. So I ordered something for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It was a big something, right? You can kind of imagine it was very large. I get the something and I open the box, and the something is totally broken. It looks like someone took their fist and shoved it through the screen. It's like completely, like I have photos, the whole thing. I message their team. Of course, you get the like long wait times. I call long wait times, blah, blah. Fast forward to February 12th. I'm like, I'm calling my credit card company. It's like such a pain in the butt. They finally get back to me and they say, hey, we noticed this order is old. Unfortunately, we can't help you within 30 days of order. Click. Hung up on me. I'm like, you took this long to reply to me. Do you see the date that I reached out? So it was just like that attrition of like not really connecting the dots. And that was probably one of the worst I've ever had. And it really made me, and sorry not to get off on a tangent too, but I have this dream that someone's going to start a D2C ecom company for like things like major appliances and TVs where it's like really easy and it's not like having to deal with like an LG or Samsung. Sorry, just did what I wasn't supposed to do. But that's my dream. So Mercer, make it happen.
Why don't we do it together?
Deal. Locked in.
I mean, I'm not really I don't know, this sounds like a lot of privilege. I don't really shop on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. My birthday is usually around Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I don't think that the deals are usually that good, right? Like it's like, okay, 20% off of the typical stuff that I buy is like, I don't know, maybe $5. It's like, how many Tokidoki figurines can I buy at discount? And yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, it used to be so different. And now there's like so many e-commerce companies and things like that are doing sales throughout the year. I will say that like a lot of people use Black Friday, a lot of businesses use Black Friday, Cyber Monday volume as an excuse to like not get back to customers. And I do think that that is a very poor experience,
Yeah.
especially because typically the people that are shopping on Black Friday, Cyber Monday are people who are perhaps fiscally less privileged than I am, because that discount does make a difference for them. And therefore that purchase feels bigger to them, and support should be prioritizing taking care of those people at that point in time. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that, but yeah.
No. Well, in closing, thank you so much to our panelists, Mercer and Jessica Rose. I love you both. Great conversation. It's so wonderful to see you both again. And thank you to everyone who attended. And thanks to Boldr and Kodif for helping make this possible. And yeah, reach out to any of us if you have any more questions. And otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so
back.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Love
It's fantastic.
you. Bye.